Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media, and tonight we're on our educational channel, and we are graced with the presence of Dr. Rhonda K. Lewis she's a professor at Wichita State and about to receive a prestigious teaching award from her colleagues. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about that. And I want Doctor to introduce herself and tell a little bit about her background. And as I always say, let's go back to kindergarten. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Thank you for having me. I am so honored. And yes, I'm a Wichita native. I grew up here in Kansas, and I went to Miller. No, I'm sorry. I went to Miller Elementary School, and then I went to Buckner Elementary School, and then I went to Chisholm Trail. And I could walk to school, and my dad advocated for me to go to school because at that time they were busing. And my dad went to talk to the superintendent and said, "You're not going to bus my child all the way to," that's when busing was happening. And so I was able to go there, and I was able to stay with one of my church members and walk to school every day. So that was kind of my beginning. But I did not really get exposed to a Black teacher until I had a math teacher, Miss Redmond, who taught math. So that was my first exposure to a Black
What grade were you in?
I was in third grade. And so the irony of it, and I didn't get to tell that to the audience with the Black educators, that Miss Redmond was my third grade teacher. She taught math. But we kind of had a trade-off. So we got to take math, but then but Miss Redmond taught me. But then as we have PhD students in our university, and I was able to have her daughter was one of my first PhD students. So it came full circle. And so I'm just so proud that her daughter now is a doctor in psychology and teaches now at the medical school here at Wichita, University of Kansas Medical School. So I'm just so proud of her. So if it wasn't for Miss Redmond, I probably wouldn't be here, and then also passing that torch on to her daughter.
Let's talk about your organization, the organization that is giving you this award.
Yeah.
Tell our audience a little bit about that. And how long have you been a part of the organization?
Well, I'm not really a part of the organization. I just heard about it. It's an organization that really is a bunch of Black educators that came together, Miss Janice Thacker and Lola McLaurin. And so they really started the organization. It's kind of a foundation, and Miss Thacker is a retired art teacher, and Miss Lola McLaurin also is a teacher. And so they came together and said, nobody's honoring our Black educators from, high school to, elementary, and then also to Black educators in the college realm. And so they wanted to come together and honor our Black educators who have influence on our Black community, that village.
So talk about what that's going to look like, and what are there any specific guidelines to your knowledge?
Well, I think they just want to recognize that village of, if it wasn't for Black educators, where would our Black community be? And I just feel so honored that I could be a part of that. Because when I got to college, there were 2 Black social workers that were here at the university when I got here, Bernice Hutcherson and Bobby Humphrey. And so I could look to them to say, hey, it's possible to be a Black professor. Because again, I didn't see that many Black professors when I was coming through school.
Where did you do your undergrad?
I actually did it at Wichita State. So I was able to do that here. And also there was a professor in English, Dr. John Poe, who also encouraged me. So I think just being able to recognize our own. And I think, in previous conversations that I've had with people about, we always look for recognition for other people. It's nice when you get recognized by your own.
Tell me this. you've been in education quite a while. So
Yes,
I'm sure you've been to a lot of symposiums, a lot of
yes.
conferences, and what have you. And with your fellow educators,
Hmm.
uh, what do you come away with is the problem with educating uh, people of color and the bottom three-fourths of society?
I don't think there's any problems. I think that, everyone wants to learn and get better, but I think it's just having access to resources.
That's what I'm getting at. Uh,
Yeah.
really, the financial end of
Hmm.
education.
Yeah, I think we just need to create a better system of funding our schools and providing opportunities for people. I mentioned the two educators that had the most influence on me was Bernice Hutcherson and Bobby Humphrey. And Bobby Humphrey, who was my mentor, talked about we need to reform the way that we do education, instead of just kind of having this random, okay, you cover all these specific topics. We need to have people who are excited about teaching and who are specialists in their area teach that subject. So what we've created in students is that students are scared to take math. They're scared to, you know what? Black people are good in math. We created math. But now we've got students who have all these anxieties about math. As soon as you mention the word math or
I'm
stats,
one of them.
well, you shouldn't be. We created math. We built the pyramids, and that's a fact. No alien nation came down and created the pyramids. The pyramids are always so over in the Aztec land. We created it, but yet all these students are afraid of math. We created them. So, I mean, if people are specialized and get excited about math, then the students will, those anxieties about those topics will fade away.
How important is it for people of color to see black teachers and professors?
I think it's important, but I don't want that to be an excuse to be successful. I didn't have role models that were in those positions, but my parents and my village encouraged me to get an education. I mean, it's important to see people, but it's not necessarily the main ingredient. You need to have that drive to be successful. That Brown versus Board of Education decisions that was done here in Kansas was for us to gain access. It didn't say I had to have a person of color to teach me. We were to enter into school to learn.
Do you have any opinion on charter schools versus public schools?
Well, I think if we continue down that road, then public schools will end, and that can be a little bit scary. So we need to be careful about how we do that. I think we need to make sure that we may have specialty schools, may be the better way of doing it, or magnet schools. So if students have a special skill set like fine arts or science and technology or humanities even, to let people, their gifts be what we promote. So if you want to become an artist or you want to emphasize different areas that you are good in, I mean, everybody doesn't want to become a professor, but if you are good in dance, if you want to become a rapper and learn the business side of that, what's wrong with that? Or if you want to become a promoter, why can't we teach those skill sets to match the skill sets of the students? I'm totally for that.
On a 1 to 10, how do you rate Wichita's public schools?
I think they're fine. And I think when we start using code of, oh, let's go to the suburban schools, that those are better than ours, I totally disagree with that. I was raised in the public schools and I think I've done okay. Our current superintendent, who will be retiring soon, came out of the public schools. I think we did okay. So
I
I
came out of public school, but I
correct.
had shop, and gym.
That's
But
right.
my experience got me into college, and I went to a black university and I thought I thought people were just smart when you were born smart. I didn't know you had to study. But
Yeah.
until you get a good mentor or some good teachers around you,
Mhm.
uh, they'll straighten you out if you looking to be straightened out.
There's nothing wrong with public schools. I just find that when we say, oh, go to the suburb schools, that's code for get away from certain populations. I think it's an excuse. Public schools are just fine.
All right, other question. Boy, we're going down the road. I want to, yeah, with all this politicalization
Mm-hmm.
of teaching history and
Mm-hmm.
teaching the truth about uh, what's what in the world, because by me being in media, I
Mm-hmm.
see right now that basically you really can't even believe anything that you see on TV or anything else. If
Mm-hmm.
you really understand, everybody has confidentiality agreements, all the corporations. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
so that you really don't know anything. And that's the real thing about education. And I'm talking because I run a black business. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to black people.
Mm-hmm.
Information applied is powerless.
Mm-hmm.
And education will teach you how to retrieve information,
Mm-hmm.
not just to memorize
Correct.
information. And that's why you got the FBI, the CIA, and a bunch of different clandestine organizations, because they understand the more information I have,
Mm-hmm.
if I apply it right, the more power I have.
Correct.
And that goes to voting and
Mm-hmm.
other things. The more information you have, the more intelligently you can
Mm-hmm.
make decisions across the board in life. Would
Mm-hmm.
you agree?
Absolutely. It's the application of knowledge that is really where the true power lies.
Hey, Doc, we're going to round this on out and close on out. What would you have to say to fellow educators?
Mm-hmm.
And then I want you to say something to the youngsters, that the high school kids and the middle school kids that are coming up, and talk to their parents in your teacher voice.
Yeah, I would just say I really want to encourage the young people. They have so much self-agency and power to learn because, in my generation, we didn't have access to the internet or Google. And I know that they're using that information to just look up information, but they really need to, understand what they are learning and not just to just look it up, but really to soak in and gather critical thinking skills. And for parents, they need to monitor what their kids are learning and gleaning, because you really do have to get not only just get information, but get an understanding of what things mean. And so parents really are the first teachers. And so parents need to understand what their kids are going through, pay attention to them in terms of their mental health and self-care of what's going on with children and adolescents, and for that village to really be there. Because it does take a village to, I know we say that, but it does really take a village to raise a child. And we as educators need to support our children, encourage our children, and our kids really can learn. And so they need that support, and we really need to be there for each other as educators and as a community.
What are you saying to the youngsters?
That they need to
Encouraging them to reach their goals.
well, they need to focus. I think it's really hard right now because they're getting distracted by the things that are on the internet, TikTok, Instagram, and then they're comparing themselves to others. They really need to focus on their own goals and not what John, Aisha, Keisha are doing, but have your own goals. What are your own skill sets? What are you good at? And I know it's hard because you're comparing yourself to others, but but comparison is the thief of joy. And so I think for you to be successful, you need to determine what success is for your own life, determine what your own purpose is. But education is one vehicle for that success. And that it's not, education itself is not, that's not, being, I don't want to use that word, but nerd. It's, I think, when I was going to school, it was not cool to get good grades, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. Most people who are successful have gone the education route. And so I think that there's nothing wrong with going for an education or getting the skills and applying those skills to what you want to be. And whatever you can, and use your dreams. Keep dreaming. Don't let anyone snatch your dreams from you, and pursue those dreams. But you can do it through education.
Hey, Doc, I'm snatching my co-host's clothes, and he's always talking about it's a plum pleasing pleasure to have you on the show. And I'm like, man, why don't you cut out all the niceties? But it was a pleasure having you on. And as we always close out, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
Awesome.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.